All right, it is 6:58. We are a couple of minutes ahead, so we'll just go ahead and jump right into this. Gather around, everybody out there in the world. Oh my goodness gracious, we have a fantastic treat for you tonight. Our eighth and final presentation of the Fort Worth Community Arts Center's original work series. And tonight we have our one and only musical submission. And with us this evening, we have three extremely talented writers with us. So welcome everybody. And if you folks wouldn't mind taking just a moment in no particular order and introducing yourself, please, and what part you played in creating this fantastic piece this evening.
Well, I'm Taylor Cochran. I wrote the book and the lyrics.
And I'm Katreeva Phillips. I helped with the lyrics and am also a composer for the show.
And I'm Nicholas Zebrun, and I was a composer and partial lyricist.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we are so very excited to have the three of you with us. I can't thank you guys enough for taking the time to join us tonight and sharing this fantastic work with the world. I believe this is the world premiere, is that correct?
Yeah,
that's right, yes.
Yep.
Very nice. Well, if you folks have a few moments, I'm just going to put you on the hot seat and we will just jump right into this if you're ready. Normally, I've been just interviewing one playwright at a time, so it'll be interesting to see how this goes. So the questions are to all of you. If you need to arm wrestle or make a decision on who's going to answer what, please feel free. And the first thing I'd like to know is if you could tell us a little bit about your inspiration and motivation for writing this particular piece.
I'll go ahead and get started as far as that's concerned. This is an idea I've had for a very long time. I've been fascinated by the life that this show has taken on. For those not familiar with To Catch a Predator, it began as a legitimate news program on MSNBC hosted by Chris Hansen, who had a fairly substantial journalism career. And it kind of took an interesting turn throughout its life as a TV show. It kind of became unintentionally a comedy. And it has been parodied by so many different stand-up comics. There's an entire South Park episode devoted to it, which I recommend watching if you haven't seen it. There was even a parody sketch on the Emmy Awards when Conan O'Brien was the host, which Chris Hansen participated in. So I've really been fascinated by the journey of the show, how the kind of original intentions were kind of tossed aside and people started watching it for completely different reasons. And I'm always looking for kind of unconventional source materials to adapt. I think a musical can really be about anything. And, our show isn't so much just about an episode of To Catch a Predator. It certainly goes within the premise of the show and everything, but it's also kind of about a comment on our relationship with with society at large and our relationship with culture. When does a show cross the line from its legitimate purposes into the realm of kind of unintentional humor? And what about, Chris Hansen and his thoughts on that? That's why our show goes into the hypothetical sort of existential crisis that Chris Hansen is potentially going through by being the host of the show. And so I thought there was a lot to investigate. It's certainly a kind of a shocking, somewhat dark subject matter to write about as far as musical theater is concerned, but it's also highly entertaining. So hopefully everyone can kind of see it from many different angles.
Yeah.
Did you want to go
Add
with
to the other two?
I would like to add that what happened was I was having a drink with Tyler, I think at one point a few years ago before all this started, and he had mentioned the idea to me. And I think he was asking me, back me up, Tyler, if I'm wrong at any point in the story. But I think you reached out to me and you said, do you know anybody that would want to write this? And I was like, me, please. I really please let me do this. And so I asked I had some ideas as to who I'd like to write this. And one time then I was on it was just like a few weeks later, I think I was on the set of one of Nicholas's movies that I was in, and I was getting my makeup done, and Nick went over to the piano and just started like, and I was just like, oh my God, I didn't know that you were any sort of musically talented. Like I had no idea. I didn't know Nick very well at that point. And I was like, do you want to do this with me? and he jumped on pretty immediately. We just like started working on it pretty soon after that, and we have a musical now. And this was mine and Nick's first musical together, and we've written 2 since then together.
I remember when you approached me on the set, because we were just messing around on the piano. I remember when you approached me on the set and you said, "Do you compose?" I said, "Yeah, I've done it before." And then you asked, or I asked you what was the subject matter, and you said, "It's To Catch a Predator." And I was like, "The Chris Hansen show?" and then, because I didn't know Tyler at the time, and then when I got to know Tyler, it made perfect sense why he would choose To Catch a Predator as the source of a musical. So it's been a journey. It's been interesting. This is now almost 4 years since we started composing it.
Wow, 4 years. Amazing. Yeah. That's really cool. So who are some of your writing mentors and or influences?
Real quick, Jason, I think my friend said that the Facebook video ended.
Gotcha. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and roll forward, and once we get going, I'll get it going.
Sorry.
I'm still showing it on mine here a little bit, and if for some reason it goes out, everybody out there will have it after the fact. So gotcha. I'll just keep moving, and then we'll post up as we continue to go through. So I'll keep plugging it and see if we can keep moving forward. So while I'm doing that, if you guys would be kind enough just to talk a little bit about your mentors or influences, if you have any.
Goodness. I certainly was drawn to a particular show called Jerry Springer the Opera, which is, a perfect show for kind of a late night series, which is kind of the audience that we're going after with this one. It's probably the raunchiest show I've ever seen in my life, and I think it's proof that you can take a subject matter that's a little bit unconventional and find your audience as long as you're adapting it, for the musical theater crowd. And Book of Mormon, of course, as well. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, are heroes of mine. And, I've been a fan of South Park since the beginning, and Book of Mormon is probably my favorite show. And they're not afraid to be equal opportunity offenders and kind of go after just everyone, which is what I've always appreciated about their sense of humor.
I think musically, I grew up on Andrew Lloyd Webber, and I really loved Joseph, that musical. I liked the cheese factor. I liked how goofy it was, yet still had some really moving pieces. And so that was an early influence in my life. And then who I look up to the most now is obviously Stephen Sondheim, and I don't think I will ever write music like he does. Yeah, I think I admire him the most in musical theater. Also, Big River was a big influence to stuff that I like to write. I love Roger Miller's music outside of the musical itself, but yeah, I think in musical theater, I think those are my influences, especially who have the most to do with how I write. So, yeah.
In terms of music, my biggest influences have always been, it's going to sound so predictably cliche, but Elton John, Billy Joel, and just like their chord structures, the way they build on these things, it's always remarkable to me. I like to go back and analyze that. And then, Katreeva and I have talked about this. We grew up very fortunately during the Disney Renaissance. So I don't think it's unfair to say Alan Menken, to a degree, has also been an influence on us. And just what he brought to that new era of musical theater in the late 80s, early 90s. That was a big influence. We talked about that a lot when we were composing.
Yeah, and it's funny, in one of the children's musicals that we wrote, was it Boy Who Cried Giant? Yeah, it was Boy Who Cried Giant, because your dad came to it and he was like, "This is Elton John."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh my God, that's right." You didn't even register with us at all.
It's one of those things when you're influenced that immediately by it, you don't realize that you're necessarily copying the chord structures, or you're trying to emulate it. But yeah, it's there. And also on this particular musical, I think you'll hear there's a lot of gospel influence. And again, Katreeva mentioned Big River. That was a huge influence.
And Nick and I both grew up in, I grew up in, my parents are pastors, and very highly gospel influenced in our church. We're a bunch of just white people singing gospel music, but we did. That's what we all sang. I was in a gospel band with my mom, not my mom, my sister and my dad, and we did that for a couple years. I was in a gospel trio, which is hilariously wonderful looking back on it. But yeah, definitely. I think we both, Nick grew up. I don't want to speak for you, Nick, on your influence concerning
Well,
church.
I mean, we didn't grow up singing traditional gospel songs, but when you live in the South, you can't help but be influenced by that sound, that Southern, that I'm trying to think of the word for it, but there's that sound that comes from it that's unmistakable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Very nice. So I'm very curious. Again, the past playwrights that I've talked to, most of their stories have come out of their own mind, and this one's come out of 3. So do you guys mind talking a little bit about this particular writing process and how you went about it? Did you set a time? Did you call each other late at night when the muse struck? How did you go about putting all this together over the course of 4 years?
Well, oddly enough, this was an idea that had been in my mind for quite some time. And so as far as writing out the lyrics and the basic structure of the story, I literally just sat down one night and typed it all up in a matter of maybe an hour or so. And I don't know if that's how most people write musicals, but this is my first attempt. So it's what I did. And, after I kind of had the basic outline, I wanted it to primarily be sung through, kind of almost operatic in nature. And fortunately, I had Katreeva and Nick to calm me down and say, let's just stick to musical theater because that's what we know. And so I trusted them basically to take the book and the lyrics and just add music as they saw fit. They of course made some edits to what I had written, as far as rhyme schemes and things like that were concerned. But I love the collaborative process, and I have no problem just handing over something I've written and letting someone else take control. And after they had written a vast majority of the music, I basically just came to them, they played it, and I was just thrilled with the results. And we've basically just been refining it ever since. So it might be an unconventional process, but it's what worked for us.
Yeah. I think some of the most hilarious times of my entire life have been working with these two on this musical. I've worked more obviously with Nick because we're the composers and partial lyricists, but yeah, Nick would come over to my house and we would just sit and talk and laugh for literally hours. It was just a lot of fun, and it was wonderful. Yeah, reading what Tyler had given to us and playing with rhyme schemes and how we were going to fit that into a meter or how we were going to fit that into a melody, and it was really, it was the first musical that I think both of us had ever written, right, Nick? And my cats are talking. And so it was such a cool thing to learn how to do for the first time. So it was
I mean, it helped that you and I, Katreeva, had a shared kind of musical vocabulary that we could almost have a shorthand conversation with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I love about the collaborative process with both of you is with Katreeva as a composer, I come to it with certain ideas. And what Katreeva does is we sit down and we listen to it. We'll play something on the piano, and Katreeva has a way of pushing it in a direction that I hadn't thought of. And so when you have that kind of partner, you can bounce ideas off of that you both agree with, but that you also are approaching it from 2 different angles, so it only enhances your work. And then with Tyler, again, I'd never met him, and when I first read the libretto, I thought, this is bizarre. Who would come up with this? Because as a screenwriter myself, you oftentimes kind of default in the way you write, but then when you meet someone like Tyler, who has come at this from such a unique perspective, it's quite liberating, because then you realize there are no rules. You can do whatever you want. And so that was something that I really appreciated with the writing from the lyric perspective, because he was giving us carte blanche to work on it, but he had written structurally something that was so unique, and we were, like Katreeva said, we were laughing so much about this.
I think that's why it took so long to complete, because
it
I just laughed. If we were there for 3 hours, 2.5 of that was just pure and utter laughter.
It really was.
I've never had honestly a more fun experience and a better partner than Nick, because we do come at it so wonderfully. It's so easy to work with him when we're being creative, and because he sits down, he's got much better piano skills than I do, but I have and then I'll come at him with an idea of oh no, that's not the chord that I want, or he's like, but what about this? And then he'll come up with a brand new chord that I hadn't even thought of, and I was like, oh, that's even better, but we have never argued about
not on this one.
Not on this one. That's true. The majority of the time, Nick and I'll just say, nope, that's not what I want. Oh, okay, I'll change this. And then he'll do the opposite. And I'm like, okay, let's just change this. And it's just been a really nice process, really.
And back to what Tyler had originally proposed, which was to make it more operatic. I think that gave us permission to break out of the cliche confines of musical theater and actually try to create chords and recitatives that are more operatic that you necessarily wouldn't find.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
so I'm curious, the show itself is not what I would consider to be a standard musical in terms of the length of it. And it is a little bit of a shorter piece. I noticed there's not necessarily an act two. I'm curious, did you guys take into consideration the length of the To Catch a Predator series itself? Or did you just feel that's all that was needed to tell this particular story? Why the time frame in this particular piece?
I think we've had many different ideas about where we want to take this. There's certainly room to expand it, I think, especially with dialogue, as it is primarily sung through. So, you know, expanding it to 90 minutes, it seems to be a big trend with musicals nowadays, is they're 90-minute shows straight through with no intermission. And I certainly feel like with some of the ideas that, you know, at least we have for blocking and choreography and things like that, there's certainly places to expand it. We've also thought about turning it into, you know, a short film as well. And since, you know, a standard episode of the show is just 30 minutes, I feel like it's still very customizable at this stage. And that's why we're really looking forward to listen to the reading, because it's going to be an eye-opening experience for us to get it from a fresh perspective. You know, as the writers will know what we need to add, if anything, and what we need to change about to make it as strong as possible.
Very interesting stuff. I gotta say, it just tickled me to death whenever I got to watch the rehearsal, and I can't wait for people to see it. I'm really anxious for them to get a taste of To Catch a Predator, the musical. So do any of you have any other things in the works, any other future collaborations amongst yourselves, or any projects that you're writing or working on individually?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Katreeva.
Oh, you can go. You go ahead.
Okay. Well, Okay. I wrote a solo piece with a friend. My friend is the performer, so we just wrote it together. It was part of the Fort Worth Fringe Festival last year, and it's been accepted into the United Solo Theater Festival in New York, which is in September. Who knows if that's actually going to take place this year or not, but just the fact that it was accepted is really exciting. So that's, you know, something else that's constantly being developed. It's called AFJ, which stands for Abel Flores Jr., the man who I wrote it with and is performing the piece. And it's a demented political speech. For some reason, demented is a good way to describe most of the things I write, oddly enough. So just continue to write with that word in mind. That's always my goal.
And it's really good. I saw it at the, which festival was it last year?
The Fringe, Fort Worth Fringe Festival, yeah.
I could not stop laughing. It was great. It was very poignant, very, very thoughtful, and very, very funny.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I have I wrote a musical last year that was going to be produced in March by a theater in where was it? I don't even know what day it is right now. But yeah, it was going to be then it got shut down due to what we're experiencing right now. But the musical is called Dominique of the Marsh, and it's a Southern take on The Little Mermaid, based in 1940s Louisiana. And it's based on the original tale, pun intended.
Oh my goodness.
Please don't listen to this. But yeah, I think it's the first musical I wrote by myself, and I'm really, really proud of it. Yeah. Collaborations, though, Nick and I were trying to do a web series with my friend Jason coming up. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that at all, Nick. It's a weird thing because of this quarantine thing. I was going to start this web series with my friend, and I kind of asked Nick to help with writing and then maybe be on the show. It's not a big deal. I was just trying to mention collaborations.
Yeah.
So you had asked.
That's the thing. This whole pandemic has kind of put so much on hold. I'm primarily a filmmaker, so I had 2 short films that were going into pre-production at the beginning of the year, and literally I was going to line up shooting schedules in March, and of course that's when everything got shut down. So right now I'm in the process of finishing 2 plays that I've been working on for I guess about 2 or 3 years now, And I've actually been working on a one-man musical about the pandemic. So when and if that will ever get finished or seen, I don't know. But it's just important to stay busy and stuff. So
Yes, couldn't agree more. So on that same note and a little bit more serious tone, I guess, how do you see art changing after all of this kind of settles itself down? And I guess more importantly, as we continue to move through it, how do you see art adapting?
You know, I teach theater and film at TCC Northwest, and so I've been lucky to kind of be exposed to theater from a historical perspective, you know, just through lecturing and whatnot. And the incredible thing about this art form in particular is that nothing can put it down completely. You know, even during the plague, even when the theaters were literally shut down during the Elizabethan era, people still found a way to make theater happen. Right now is a perfect example of that. The theaters aren't open, yet here we are, you know, having this reading, thanks to you kind people for producing this in the first place. But you know, we're certainly going to see more of an online presence from theater companies. It's a little bit scary from a financial standpoint, just how, you know, all of our local theaters are going to make it, you know, through this time. But, you know, as long as we're all there to support one another in any way, shape, or form, whether it be monetary or otherwise, theater will continue to thrive in kind of unconventional ways. So I don't even think we've seen the beginning of the evolution as far as this era is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes art is always put on the back burner in people's minds because it can be very ephemeral. It's not necessarily immediately felt, but I think what we're seeing is how important art is to surviving this, because, you know, we sit there and we can binge watch things, but that's an important aspect of getting through this, is having artists perform their art and display their art. And in terms of the evolution, I agree with Tyler. I don't know where it's going to go, but I don't think we've quite seen the true beginning of it yet. This is actually a work in progress. I mean, in terms of how it's affecting us as artists and as theater goers and things like that. But I think it will be, you're going to see a strong virtual presence, and you're going to see people who are going to come out and want to support the arts more because they realize how intrinsic it is to them as humans getting through this.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, all extremely valid points. It's really been refreshing, especially with all the negative news that we hear, to really see how art once again has really come to the forefront, especially in the social media aspects. All of these great quarantine cabaret and all of these wonderful organizations releasing a lot of archival information. There's a Prince concert on this weekend from his 1985 Purple Rain tour, and I hate to say it, but if that might be the best thing that comes out of this, is an opportunity to see Prince live on stage again. So it's really been refreshing to once again know that art is just such an anchor of communal bonding. And so it's certainly been a blessing to have those avenues to be able to continue to share in that. So what are some of your suggestions for new playwrights or musical people if they want to take on writing a musical?
The best piece of advice that I got when starting a new project, especially in writing, well, I guess it really just pertains to writing, but just one simple word of advice is, if you have any sort of idea, jot it down. You know, one line of dialogue, you have an image in your mind, just jot it down. And as soon as you have an idea of, like, okay, I want to complete a movie, or I want to complete a musical, I want to complete a play, and I have no idea where to start, the best place to start is what you're most excited to write about. Like, if, like, I had an idea in mind, oh, I like that tree over there, I cannot wait to write about this tree, I want to write a play about this tree. And you come up with the plot, you come up with the characters, and you're like, where do I start? Where do I start? What inspired you to write that in the first place? What scene are you most excited to write? Because then you can write everything around that. It's helped me complete all of what I've done, and it's just the best advice that I got, because it really makes you hone in, and it keeps you excited about your project. So that's my one bit of advice that has really helped me along the way.
Great advice. Anybody else?
Well, of a similar fashion, you know, the thing that I always tell myself is, instead of just saying, wouldn't it be great if this existed, or wouldn't it be funny if I wrote this film or this musical, this play, why not be the person to write it? Instead of just thinking of an idea and just leaving it as an idea, why can't you be the person to write it down and just realize that it's a process? It's not going to be in its final form, probably in its first draft, and it can be, you know, somewhat painful developing something creative, but in the end, just, you know, you have to be the one to see it through.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nick, I have more of a specific question for you, if you don't mind. You said that you're a screenwriter. Can you talk a little bit about the difference in writing for movies and writing for musicals?
I mean, it comes down basically to the medium itself. The essence of theater is the scene. And what I love about theater as opposed to film, although I mean, I love both of them, theater allows moments to breathe, because the essence of cinema is the shot. So you're always thinking of it in terms of what does the shot convey? Whereas when you write for theater, what does the word convey? What does the scene convey? And so that's the biggest difference that I've encountered, is between mediums, being able to articulate your ideas and your expressions of emotion differently than between the two things. And it goes to music as well. I mean, music conveys so much that dialogue simply can't do. So across the board, I think each one has its strengths. There are some detriments inherent to each one, but each one has such great strengths. It's hard to compare, honestly.
Apples and oranges, right?
It really is. Yeah.
What was the most difficult part of this particular artistic process for the three of you?
Ooh.
Goodness.
Finishing it.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
finishing it. Making it done. I'll say getting it arranged, because Nick and I, you know, I'm trying to think of some sort of metaphor for that. But anyway, it's hard to find an arranger. Usually when you write a musical, you ask an arranger basically to clean your chords up, or arrange for a different instrument or something like that. They can do an array of things. But we had struggled finding an arranger because we didn't have any programs to put it down really on sheet music, like as effectively as we wanted to. And so I think that's what took a lot of the time, the 4 years, a lot of that was taken just finding someone who would arrange this for us. And we finally did, and his name was Tyler Simpson, and he did a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful job. And I was very pleased with the outcome of that. So I think that was, for me at least, was the hardest part of this.
I'd agree. I think there was also, I mean, more so with you and me, Katreeva, there's this element of, we don't like to necessarily finish things. We want to tinker. We'll hear something, we'll play it back, and we'll think, we could work on this more. And I think, at least in part, there was this sense of, we got to move on. We have to put it aside. It's good. And we had to stop second guessing ourselves at a certain point.
That is. Because I think you and I, as goofy and as fun loving as we are, we're very serious when it comes to our creations. And we want them to, even if they're in jest, we want them to be taken seriously and to be respected, even if they're intended to be comedies or dark comedies 100%. Or children's theater. Nick and I wrote 2 other children's musicals together. Wow. And I think we did a really great job with that, but those took a while too, because we wanted every moment to be perfect. And so it was really, that's what's hard with Nick and I, is that we really, really want everything to come out, as intended, the way that we intended. So. Yeah.
And I see things through till the bitter end, and even if I go down in flames, I like to finish things. So, yes, we all help each other out.
Well, I can't thank the three of you enough for joining us, and I'm so excited to share this with everyone. So I have one more question, and this is probably the most important one, again, in no particular order. How and where can we find you and keep up with the material that you guys are producing?
I post everything on Instagram and on Facebook, everything that I'm doing. I just finished a short film in this quarantine short film group that I did, and posted that there. I posted it on Instagram. Everything that I do is there. My handle is just Katreeva on Instagram. And my Venmo is Katreeva - no, I'm just kidding. And then you can find me on Facebook by searching me.
You can plug it if you want it. If you want
I should rename myself my Venmo.
Yeah.
Put it in the comments on the Facebook page.
Well.
Yeah, same for me. Tyler TCU 2007 has been my screen name for everything. Guess where I went to college. So yeah, same platforms basically.
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Nicholas Zebrun. I'm not very original with my handles. So you can find me. I'm also on IMDb. So look me up. I got a lot of my projects on there.
Very nice. Very nice. I can't thank you guys enough. Seriously, I'm so excited for this.
Can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, so at this point in time, I'm going to ask the three of you to go ahead and move into the house. And I'm going to go ahead and bring on these wonderful, talented people that we have here. And we'll see if we can get them all on here. And Wesley, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but it's there's one. All right, bear with me here, folks. We'll go ahead and get them all up while we're moving through here. I am still fairly new to this Zoom feature, and we'll see if we can get everybody on. There's two. I see some wonderful keys there. And Lance, I'm going to ask you to start yours, and we'll see if we can get you on there. Oh, my goodness, everybody's here. I'm so excited. All right. So, Wesley, if you would be kind enough to introduce your fabulous team for this evening, and I'll get Lance labeled while you're doing that. Make sure you unmute yourself there.
Great. Yeah, I was just saying, can you hear me? Jason, can you hear me? So,
I can hear you now.
Great. Hi, good evening. So which camera do I look into? Let's do it this way. So I'll introduce, tonight playing the role of Decoy, we have Nancy Lopez. Nancy, wave your hand. I'm assuming you're waving your hand?
Yes.
Cool. And playing the role of Chris Hansen, we've got Lance McDougall. And we're all at some point playing the role of crew member. We've got hats to represent our crew status. So if we put on a hat, or if we try to put on a hat, that's what that represents. And my name's Wesley Gentle. I'll be performing the role of two different predators, and also a crew member as well. So yeah, without further ado, thank you to everyone who's joining us tonight. And yeah, this is a real treat, as they say, as predators like to say. So let's take it away.
Very nice. I would also like to introduce Mr. Joshua Hahlen, who will be reading our stage directions this evening. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy To Catch a Predator, the musical.
To Catch a Predator, the musical. Act 1, Scene 1. Inside the man's basement, his parents' basement. A small table with computer, circa 2005, is set up downstage right. Enter a man. He goes to his computer and logs on, punching up some stuff on the keyboard.
Mouse is in my hand, my profile's up to date. Now it's up to this chat room to decide my romantic fate. I have my parents' credit cards, thank God they pay my bills. I raid their fridge on a nightly binge, this gives me such a thrill. To see the promised land of love, I log into the wild unknown. I'll never let them see my face, my cover would be blown. The mouse is in my hand, the mouse is in my hand, the mouse is in my hand. I have no job, no interviews, no roommates to judge my ways, no goals on the horizon now, so the question still remains, who will accept me for me? I need to find true love. No matter how old she is, I'll mount her picture on my wall. I will treat her like a queen, buy her flowers and things she needs, and then she'll answer the question, will you be mine forever, please? The mouse is in my hand, the mouse is in my hand, the mouse is in my hand. The mouse is in my hand, oh, the mouse is in my hand, the mouse is in my hand.
The man sits down at his computer. Lights up downstage left. The Decoy enters and sits at her own computer. Despite her obviously older age, she affects the disposition of a 13-year-old girl.
I'm a little nervous. I've never done this before.
Oh, don't worry. It will be an experience you won't be able to forget.
But I'm only 13. My parents aren't home.
Just send me your address. I'll be over as soon as I can.
Well, what should I expect? What would you do with me when we are here and alone? Would you bring flowers and candies to me at my home?
I would do anything, everything that you would say, only to know that I'm bringing you joy every day.
What would you do
I
with me?
would
Say to me, what
take
would you do to me?
care
What would
of
you do when we're
you,
here
my
and alone? Would you bring flowers and candies
will
to me?
not
Any
have
puppies
a
and
thing
dollies
to
me at my
fear. This will be a treat I won't forget. I hope this isn't something I'll regret. As I sit at my computer screen, I only think of you and your sweet face.
Could you tell?
We'll be happy as we live together, making music on a daily basis.
Ain't that grand?
This might seem a little strange, but I will say I've never felt this way before.
Tell me more.
Maybe you and I will live our lives together, side by side, until the end.
Such a friend.
It can be fun to live dangerously. Don't you know that I'm here for you? Maybe I'll learn your real name soon, please understand. I can take care of you.
I get the point. See you soon.
This could be it, the one I've been waiting for. Sure, she's young, but love is always blind. My online lover soon will be united. No one ever believed in me, but now I'll prove them wrong. things are looking up for me. Finally. And now my parents' basement doesn't look so depressing. I hope there's gas in the station wagon. It's time for my journey to begin.
He dashes off to meet the decoy. Lights out. Scene 2. Inside the decoy's house. The man rings the doorbell and she answers. In the wings, we get glimpses of the crew of To Catch a Predator. They look on with anticipation.
Got him. We almost got him.
There's laundry to be done. I'll be right back.
Are you sure we're alone? We've got him. We almost got him. Are you ready for a good time?
Just take a seat, I'll be right back.
We got him. Oh, we've got him. Send him in.
Why don't you have a seat
Enter
there?
Chris Hansen,
I'm the
the
Chris
tall,
Hansen,
charming,
host of
debonair.
America's #1 rated primetime extra. Why don't you have a seat there? I'm the Chris Hansen, host of America's #1 rated primetime extravaganza. You've been caught in an investigation to stop people like you from doing harm to others.
Oh, I knew this was a sting.
What are you doing here? Do you realize what you've done? Do you know how old she is? This is wrong. It's nothing to be proud of. We have the entire conversation. What would your family say?
I don't know what I was thinking. I thought she was 18. I promise it won't happen again. I have a family and station wagon. Just let me go.
Well, can you explain yourself?
I just want to go home. The flowers were for my wife. The wine coolers were for the party. And I need to leave now because my 6 kids are waiting for me to pick them up from school.
Sounds logical. You're free to go.
Oh, thank you. Like I said,
Make sure this will never happen again. I'm sure you've learned a valuable lesson. I'm glad your addiction to these chat rooms has faded now. Goodbye.
The man exits the house.
dang it.
Police lights and sirens blare. The crew laugh, shake hands, and congratulate one another.
Another job well done, and in record time, we stopped another perp. He was out of his mind. The ratings for the show are high. The reign of crime is through. We've done another bang-up job, and it's thanks to you. It's thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
It's thanks to you.
Thanks to you. thanks to you.
It's thanks to you.
It's thanks to you. It's thanks to you.
What a wonderful day. My tea did the trick. I'm grateful that I never had to see his tiny car. I have a few good years in me, although I'm 42.
Thank God you only look 14 today. It's thanks to you.
It's thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
It's thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Another wonderful, tasteful, brilliant episode.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
It's thanks to you. It's thanks to you. It's thanks to you.
I've come to say I'm proud of what we did today. With more episodes to do, each adventure will be new. So long as we keep the creeps off the streets, it's all thanks to you. It's thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
It's thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Another wonderful, tasteful, brilliant episode.
It's thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you. It's thanks to you. It's thanks to you. It's thanks
to you.
Thanks to you.
It's thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Another
Wonderful, brilliant episode. It's thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you. It's thanks to you. It's thanks to you.
The song ends and everyone breaks into applause. Chris Hansen moves downstage center, something clearly weighing on him. The decoy moves in to question him.
Are you okay, Chris?
I'm just thinking, isn't there more to life? I mean, it feels good to catch perverts and all, but I'm having second thoughts. It seems like this is a little too sensational. I have a master's degree in journalism, for crying out loud. Has it really come to this? Have I sacrificed my life? I'm under so much pressure, I'm feeling so much strife. Catching freaks is good and all, but my family is ashamed. I made these choices on my own, I'm the only one to blame. When I was starting out, I was seeking credibility. Is there something wrong with me?
We are the best thing to happen to society. You should be proud of your choices. Don't you agree?
I feel ashamed.
Don't be ridiculous.
I'm such a fraud.
Come on, but our show is a must.
I wish you understood my family's angry at me.
We're the only family in need.
Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love, love, love your family? Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love, love, love your family?
You're so ungrateful. I know this job isn't always fun, but the public sees that there's work to be done. And those children,
All those children,
they all need our protection. So shut up, sit up, listen now. No time for reflection. Regardless of your feelings, we are all honorees of our contract with NBC.
don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love, love, love your NBC? Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love?
Don't you love, love, love your NBC? On to the next city.
We continue singing the refrain as they exit the scene. Scene 3. Same setup, different house. A second man comes in. The decoy greets him.
The candy is here, and I brought you some beer for the night. Your place is so nice, let's sit down and I'll turn off the light.
Thank you for coming. The hot tub is ready for fun. I'm ready to live now because all my homework is done.
So, how about a hug?
Surprise! You're on TV.
Dang it.
Why don't you take a seat there? Explain these online transcripts. Are you looking for a good time?
I don't remember writing that. I'm a high school guidance counselor and a fan. This isn't what it looks like. I'll be leaving now. Goodbye.
He runs out the door, greeted by police lights and sirens.
We got another one.
We have another 7-hour marathon lined up, and it's thanks to you.
And that's fine and all, but my wife still isn't speaking to me. The critics say I'm a bigger creep than the creeps I helped capture. There's no comfort for me anymore. I feel like I'm dying inside.
Don't pay attention to them. Think of the good we're doing. You have become a star. Just take solace in the fact that you're making the world a better place for everyone. I can't remember what this planet was like before you. There was just chaos and no order.
Really?
We owe you everything.
Everything.
When I was just a boy, I dreamed of saving the world. Like little did I know that evil had unfurled. That was just a dream. The world ain't what it seems. I tried to be a hero. I tried to be the hero of my dreams. Should have been a hero. Should have been the one to chase all the monsters, all the bad things. That's what I should have done. Should have been a hero. Should have been the one. All I need's a new start. My life's falling apart. I just don't know. I've gotta move on.
Just a girl, I needed more than a friend to be by my side till the very end. My wish has now come true since I'm standing next to you. I dreamed you into my life. I dreamed you were the hero of my dreams. You're my hero, you're the one. You're my morning star, my Bentley car, my everything under the sun. You're my hero, you're the one. As long as you're here, I have nothing to fear. You're our leader, the hero, the one. You're my hero.
I'm your morning star.
My Bentley car,
You're
my
everything under the sun. I'm your hero. I'm the one. As long as I'm here, you have nothing to fear. I'm your leader, the hero, the one. The one. The one.
Here, have some iced tea.
It's good.
The decoy and the crew leave. Hansen steps downstage center. The other two men join him. Dream ballet sequence. Same music as hero. Should be interpretive. And sum up the entire show thus far.
Am I destined to be alone?
When will I find a place to call my home?
This nightmare that is my life, it torments my soul. I must continue on this path until I find my way. My computer was my way into Cyberland, oh Cyberland.
My true love is waiting down in Cyberland, Cyberland.
I've ruined so many lives down in Cyberland, Cyberland, Cyberland. Down in Cyberland, Cyberland. I want someone to love me like I love my vintage toys. I never thought I'd become a savior to little girls and boys. It takes such a toll down in Cyberland, Cyberland, Cyberland.
She's not afraid of anything, and I'll love her without fear.
I'd sell my comic books to prove to her that I'm sincere.
I'd sell my soul to change the world, to make it a better place. If only good didn't have to mean I'd become a big disgrace. Down in Cyberland, Cyberland, Cyberland. My family is ashamed of me.
Not in Cyberland,
No,
Cyberland.
I've lost faith in humanity because of Cyberland, Cyberland.
Cyberland has changed my life for good, for good. Cyberland.
The two men exit, leaving Chris Hansen alone on stage. Scene 4. Hansen stands in the home, alone.
Episodes and counting. Life shouldn't have to be this way. Shouldn't I help to free those creepers? Maybe they aren't so bad. Their stories shouldn't be exploited. It's all my fault they turned out so sad. I'll talk to the judge and convince him they should be set free. I just can't take anymore. It's time to step through the door. There's so much more to endure. Can I redeem my life? Can I end this war?
The Decoy and the crew burst in. They surround the gallant host.
Don't you see we're concerned? You must not interfere with those creepers in jail. Be at peace with their fate. It is out of your hands. We'll be without jobs, and so will you.
You will ruin our lives, ruin them more than you know. You will become a predator. You will become one of them.
Decoy starts to walk away.
I'm not like them.
You are just like them. Nothing but a mess. Look at yourself. You used to be the best. You're alone with your computer as your window to the world. You're not fooling anyone anymore.
The crew encircle Hansen as they plead their case.
Don't let us down. We give our fate to you. You must be strong to lead a fight that's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true.
Everyone in this world, see them all the same. Predators all around. In all of you, who do I blame?
Join us, join us, join us, join us. Do you accept your fate? The fate of saving lives. Stand for what you were born to do. On this we will rely on you. Join us, join us, join us, join us, join us.
I accept my fate.
Join us.
I accept my life.
Join us.
I'll run side by side,
Join us.
and I'll join with pride.
We'll run side by side. We'll win hand in hand, ending the race together. We will make our stand. Join us, join us, join us, join us, join us.
Let's change the world.
Join us.
Let's do what we can.
Join us.
To the greater good, I'll forget who I am.
Join us. Join us. Join us. Join us. Join us.
To catch a predator, you have to see that girl through a dirty pervert's lonely eyes. And if you catch him fast before some time has passed, he will have to sit and testify to all the things he'd like to do next door to you. But without evidence it's tough, so let's set a course to use the greatest force. We're watching every single day for minimal financial pay. It's our raison d'etre de jour when we catch a predator.
End of show.
Bravo, everyone. I could have all of the playwrights back. Oh,
Thank you so much.
what an absolute joy. I want to say thank you so much to Lance and to Nancy and to Wesley for taking this on. Of course, as always, we want to say thank you to our playwrights and composers, Tyler, Katreeva, and Nicholas. Josh, you were awesome as always. Ladies and gentlemen, that is 8 shows through quarantine.
Ooh, goodness.
Community Arts Center's original work series. All 8 of our shows are on YouTube. Please make sure you check it out. Again, guys, I can't thank you enough for taking this on and participating, and especially for all you folks that are out there watching. That wraps it up. And make sure you follow us at the Fort Worth Community Arts Center on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check out our brand new YouTube channel. We've got all kinds of great content on there. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go enjoy a nice glass of tea. God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.